A lot of hype and excitement has been built up over the past couple of days to see the debut of RJ Barrett and Immanuel Quickley. Well, it just happened, and you know what? It exceeded expectations. It somehow is better than we all thought. Now, is this team perfect? Was this game perfect execution, a massive blowout of the Cleveland Cavaliers? No way. But the acquisition, the trade specifically, and how RJ as well as Quickley are going to fit into this team, at least from the first game sample size, it looks like it's going to be better than we all thought. Because there were a couple key concerns that were made following this trade and everything that sort of went down, and it seems like those might not be as serious issues as we expected. So we're going to dive into all of that in this video and break down where the Toronto Raptors are at, because the team looks a heck of a lot different than it did a few days ago. A few of the things that have been plaguing this team feels like it might be fixed with this trade, and a couple more holes might be filled. So I wouldn't be surprised if Masai's not done sort of tweaking the roster and stuff, but frankly, I am pretty pumped with how this game went. Yes, the Cleveland Cavaliers didn't have Evan Mobley. They didn't have Darius Garland. They haven't had them for a while. It's not like they're resting or something along those lines, but when the Toronto Raptors came out, the Cavs have been performing well, and they faced a Cleveland Cavaliers team that, particularly in the second half, somehow adjusted the in-game sliders, threw in those hacks, threw in those cheat codes, because they were hitting some dumb, ridiculous threes. And one point of emphasis, one point that I was really looking at in this game was how the defense is going to hold up, because frankly, OG Anunoby is one of the best on ball, one of the best defenders in the entire NBA. So losing him out of your lineup definitely has a serious effect in terms of how effective you are going to be stopping guys. Well, looking at individually, Immanuel Quickley as well as RJ Barrett, frankly, I thought they did really well. Immanuel Quickley really surprised me. I don't know how many boards he got specifically, but if we look at the stats, for Quickley, 6 rebounds. Yeah, 14.6 rebounds, 3 assists. The rebounds from Quickley, even though it was only 6, that's still a lot for a smaller guard. He is just in there for every single board, and particularly in the fourth quarter, he is just a dog. There are times when multiple Cleveland Cavaliers players were around him, and Quickley could just rise up and find a way to get that basketball. He has a knack for those touches. Again, dealt with some foul trouble early on in this game, but it felt like those were a lot of him just being in weird positions. Not necessarily dumb reach-in fouls, even though a couple could have borderline that, but I think more so positionally he might have been out of where he was sort of expected to be for the Toronto Raptors, which makes sense because the dude probably just learned the plays a couple hours before this game ended up happening. So a few fouls happened there, but defensively, I was really impressed with what I saw from Immanuel Quickley, particularly with the rebounding. And RJ Barrett is a player that seemed to be polarizing in terms of how people regarded his defense. Well, frankly, the first thing I'll say, the athleticism we saw from the outside looking in, obviously played on the Knicks, but that size and speed that he has is legit. It is real. Watching this full game, looking at it on the defensive end, and RJ Barrett, again, was matched up with Donovan Mitchell a lot of this night, and then Donovan Mitchell had a pretty solid game in this one, 26 points, 8 of 21 from the field, so nothing crazy, hit some ridiculous shots, but I thought did a decent job at sort of staying in front, doing his sort of thing, moving his feet, wasn't horrible. There were a couple of blow-bys by both Caris LeVert and Donovan Mitchell, but I thought the defense from both Quickley and RJ Barrett would be graded as good. Positionally, again, out of place at times, especially in the offensive end. RJ made some weird decisions, just throwing some passes to nowhere. Maybe with the Knicks, he was sort of used to players being in certain spots, but, we saw a lot of just the organization stuff, a little bit weird with RJ and Quickley. Now, if that continues a month into their Raptors careers, then that's something I'm more concerned about. Not too worried about that, but overall, individual defense, hustle on boards, the stuff, the little things that OG Anunoby provided to this team, I thought was really good. And that's honestly my biggest concern about losing OG Anunoby. So it's nice to see the two guys that we brought in be capable of doing that out there on the court. However, they are smaller. They're not the even if they're good at doing what they're sort of doing, they aren't elite. They're not at that sort of all NBA defense level. And then that's why tonight we saw guys, I guess Donovan Mitchell did his own thing. We used to meme Donovan Mitchell stats against us at times, but the players, Caris LeVert tonight, he generally can get clamped by like an OG, throw him on there, and then those stats end up going down. He was getting to the rim at will at points, knocking down some shots and stuff. So a guy like Caris LeVert right? They're going to get you some buckets when you don't have a sort of wing defender out there that's going to completely stop them. More players can catch fire. That's where we're going to need guys like Scotty and potentially Pascal to maybe take more of a role, more of a position along those lines. But defensively, I thought the Raptors looked really good, and Pirtle looked really engaged tonight. Going up against Jared Allen, who randomly has an offensive bag, I thought defensively, Jakob Pirtle really stepped up. A few more straight line drives happening, and he blocked a few shots. 3 blocks in this game, 11 rebounds, and most of those rebounds weren't those just sort of, ginger falls straight into your hand. Jakob Pirtle was boxing out. He was inside that paint, whether it was Allen, whether it was Thompson, whether it was those random big guards that the Cleveland Cavaliers have, attacking that rim. Pirtle was able to get a few boards, which is nice to see. So defensively, it was the first thing I really looked at with this Raptors squad to see, okay, are things going to fall apart defensively with OG Anunoby out? And I don't think that's the case. Were we great defensively? No. But a lot of that sort of positioning, things along those lines. Again, the Cavs didn't have Garland or Mobley, but I was pretty content with what I saw on the defense end for the Raptors, but it is a huge loss losing OG Anunoby. But why? So that's a part that exceeded my expectations. We knew that Quickley would be able to put up some buckets, and Quickley, again, it's weird, sort of, RJ and Quickley made some weird decisions at times. It felt like they didn't want to overstep, and then at times, like, you could see Scotty Barnes kind of point, like, RJ, attack, Quickley, take that drive, and at the end, they took some weird shots, but they didn't look super comfortable just yet in the Raptors offense, but overall, really solid games. Quickley, 14 points, RJ Barrett, 19 points, solid efficiency, nothing too crazy, nothing too bad, both knocked down a 3, 1-3 for RJ, and 2-5 from the three-point line from Quickley. Those are the things that we sort of expected. Those are the things that we were sort of cool with. But RJ Barrett, in particular, just really impressed me. I talked about on the defensive end, the athleticism, the size, and we know this man is a freight train, the way he sort of attacks the rim and the speed and stuff. But I think I might have overlooked, just not watching enough RJ Barrett full games of basketball, how fast this man plays. And it's something we expect from Quickley, and it's something that we, project, but RJ Barrett catches that ball, and Chris mentioned it in transition. He just goes, and it doesn't matter who's in front of you, and it might look like sort of a tough shot. There's a couple times it felt like, transition offensive strategy might be a little bit different. Some teams like to run to the corner. Some people like to get players into the dunker. Made a couple weird passes in transition, but holy smokes, he's an elite finisher around the basket, and he puts himself in positions to score in those areas. So I was really impressed with what RJ Barrett did to push the break, to get the Toronto Raptors into some offense, and frankly, the Cleveland Cavaliers end up going on some runs. It felt like when RJ was on the bench, because RJ did a really good job at just having timely sort of attacking the basket. Just the Raptors need a bucket, he can get you an easy bucket, or he can get you a bucket inside that paint. Sometimes it might look forced. There's a couple of possessions where it was forced, but when he gets in there, when he makes it sort of with the right decision making, he can get you an easy basket. So I was impressed with that aspect of RJ Barrett, and the lineup of Dennis Schroeder and Immanuel Quickley, it was something probably a lot of Raptors fans didn't project. We thought, okay, Dennis Schroeder might be they might have staggered minutes. We're worried because we all know how much Darko Rajakovic likes Dennis Schroeder, as probably should. Dennis Schroeder has been really good for this Raptors team, but the speed at which we saw this Raptors team play with Quickley and Dennis Schroeder, that is going to be huge. And obviously Pascal Siakam made a career off of playing fast, so now with two guards that are going to be pushing the lanes, pushing the pace, this is the fastest I've seen the Toronto Raptors play in a very long time. So with RJ pushing the break, Schroeder as well as Immanuel Quickley, and then Siakam maybe getting back to his ways along that side, obviously Scotty Barnes is elite in transition. I mean, this is going to be a much better basketball, a brand of basketball to watch on the eyes. Maybe not, there's benefits for playing different styles and stuff, but holy smokes, it is fun watching these plays happen. And then the biggest concern, the biggest thing that also was talked about is you're bringing in RJ Barrett. Siakam hasn't been that consistent from behind the three-point line this season, and Pirtle is a non-factor from shooting. Outside the key, he is not effective. So you bring in RJ Barrett to this team, who, again, is a bulldog. He is driving those lanes. He has people bouncing off him and stuff. The only way to stop him is there's three players in the paint. And, sometimes he'll force it because he knows how good he is at finishing around the basket. But RJ Barrett, with space, could be huge. So how did the spacing look tonight from the Toronto Raptors? Now, this could be skewed. This could be adjusted, because if you look at the stats, again, Pascal Siakam in this one, who's been struggling from behind the three-point arc this season, had shot 5 of 8 from behind the 3-point line, hit some tough ones. Again, 36 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists for Pascal Siakam. I think the pace of play really helped Pascal on this one because his threes were a lot more open. And again, the spacing didn't feel like there was more of it, but it felt like Quickley did a really good job at sort of getting him, passing to him in his spots. Obviously, Scotty Barnes can always drive and make those dish-offs. And I felt like in this game, there was a real emphasis on getting paint touches. The Raptors had a big problem over the past month or so where they'd make those drives because guys like Gary, guys like Dennis Schroeder, guys like Scotty not to the same extent, but Malachi Flynn, especially when he was getting run for our team, they can get by guys. Good ball handlers, athletic enough to get paint touches. However, then they go in and they be very hesitant. They just immediately pass out that basketball. They didn't seem like they really had the mindset of, oh, I can score this, or, I'm driving with sort of the decision in my head already made to pass. Whereas tonight, I think one thing that really mitigated the lack of spacing out there on the court, and it's, RJ hit a 3, Pascal Siakam's shooting a lot, so there was actually a lot of spacing out there on the court because the guys were hitting. But the sort of all the gravity talk that everyone's talking about with the lineups here now at this point, I thought was mitigated because, one, Jakob Poeltl really executed well in terms of getting into those dunkers, finding those little spots where you can catch and put up these lays. And, one big problem with Jakob Poeltl is certainly going to be his lack of free throw shooting down the end of games because we need his defense. We need him kind of out there, but he still can't hit free throws, which is brutal. But I like the way he sort of positioned himself. He made some excellent cuts, just curving and then kind of not a handle. I'm not calling it a bag for Jakob Poeltl, but was able to put the ball on the floor like 1 or 2 times in the paint, not turn over, and finish around the basket. Early on in this game, too, we saw a bit of point Poeltl. Again, I'm throwing some exaggerations out to Jakob Poeltl, but he was looking to facilitate a little bit, which is something that was highly regarded during his San Antonio Spurs era. There were a lot of great highlights of it, and it's something that I don't think has been that utilized while he's been with the Toronto Raptors. So I like the fact that he was making passes. I feel like he was almost a little bit rusty, and he thought, okay, now I have RJ, I have Quickley, these guys that can shoot and stuff. I'm going to try out some different things. Made some tough passes, but Poeltl being a facilitator would really help him, not being a complete Ben Simmons liability-esque. Ben Simmons is a guard and stuff, but him not being an extreme liability for his shooting. Having the Marc Gasol-esque role, again, Gasol could actually space the floor with a 3-point shot, but, space out and be a threat with his passing, so you actually have to guard him, would be huge for this Raptors team. So I don't mind him having a few turnovers there. Was this game perfect? No. The on-ball defense is certainly missed from OG Anunoby, but not as bad as I expected. The runs, they did go cold for a little bit from the 3-point line. I think Darko is still tweaking with rotations to see what's really going to work. I mean, he threw Thad Young in for like 30 seconds there in the first, which was, a bit jarring. Grady Dick still not getting run. Gary Trent Jr. is probably the biggest problem that I have with this team, with this game right now, because he's a guy that you hope would be unlocked, with a little shakeup, with a change in scenery in terms of this roster look. But Gary Trent Jr. off the bench in 26 minutes, 1 of 5 from the 3-point line, and was getting some open looks. Is just still not able to knock him down. Hustle on the defensive end. Again, I thought this was a bit more of a motivated Gary Trent Jr. tonight. Had only 2 assists, but I was kind of liking how Gary Trent Jr. is willing to sort of pass that basketball. He's being very unselfish, even during a time when you think maybe should be I need to be aggressive so I don't lose my spot and lose my minutes to RJ Barrett, Schroeder, and Quickley, and these types of dudes. I thought Gary was very unselfish in this game, but he has to hit open threes. That's the only real point. That's the only real big reason the Star Boys out here on the court. So we need to kind of happen. But folks, I'm feeling really good about this game. I'm feeling really good about this Raptors team. Let me know what you guys think about this Toronto Raptors squad. Again, became a little bit of a nail biter. Really impressed with Scotty, Pascal closing out this one. They're still our 2 top dogs, but RJ and Quickley are going to be really good, and they're extremely young as well. This game impressed me more than I expected. But let me know what you guys think. I'm signing out. Cheers.